Well, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome to our weekly video of planets through Nakshatra. And as you know, we are covering Rahu through Nakshatra. We're starting from Rahu due to popular demand. Last week we covered Rahu in Revati Nakshatra. This week we're going to be covering Rahu in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra. That means what happens when Rahu, the north node of the moon, comes into the constellation of Uttara Bhadrapada, which is a constellation working behind the scenes of the Pisces zodiac sign, because every zodiac sign has constellation like the engines, the motors working behind it to move the constellation. Just think of it like that. This is why within just a Pisces sign, you will find varieties of people doing varieties of things. And that's because of their being born, their planets being in certain nakshatra. Then you can actually narrow it down to a certain padha, because each nakshatra constellation has 4 sections known as padhas. So today we're simply covering the nakshatra of Uttara Bhadrapada and what happens when Rahu, this energy, this malevolent energy, steps into the water of Uttara Bhadrapada. Because think of Pisces not just as an ocean, but think of it as 3 different lakes, 3 ponds, or a river that leads to one pond to the other. So Rahu was, swimming into the pond of Revati. This week, he's now swimming into the lake of Uttara Bhadrapada. So now Rahu is going to experience something different. But remember, the foundation is going to be the same. It is the Pisces sign. Okay? So if you do not know if your Rahu is in this nakshatra, where all your other planetary planets are, what nakshatra all your other planets are placed, which you will find on the second page of my reports, and you can check out my full astrological report, including my books, Astrology, Conjunction, and Aspects of the Speed of Light, including online consultations at this link here. So let's get started with Rahu and Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra. So in the last nakshatra, when Rahu stepped into the water of Revati, it was the last nakshatra, which is all about finding that ultimate moksha, that finding that, the ultimate path to the source energy. But Rahu stepped back into it. So Rahu is like, wow, interesting. There's something known as moksha. There's something known as final enlightenment. And through expressing yourself creatively, through expressing ourselves through our, sixth senses, we're able to connect with that divine. Now he has moved back instead of moving forward, like other devta, the suras, planets that you see. Rahu is like a asura. It is one of those, think of them as I can't even forget the name, but just think of them as bad energy. So Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra is a nakshatra obviously ruled by Saturn under the realm of Jupiter. And Uttara Bhadrapada is represented by twins, symbol of twins, meaning dual energy. Energy that lies in the water, and it has this duality to it. It has its way of thinking this way and the other way as well. It can think from 2 different sides. And the cast of this nakshatra is a royer, meaning that they are here to fight and through struggle find the meaning in the life. You know how a job of a royer is to fight and protect and serve. So any nakshatra that has the royer cast, meaning that they're here to find themselves through struggle, finding themselves by facing enemies and obstacles, having this obstacle course, like a boot camp. And the nature of this nakshatra is obviously sattvic tamas, meaning that it's a very sattvic nakshatra from its body and soul. But there's a tamasic nature to it because of the devta, the snake god that lies underneath the water of Uttara Bhadrapada. He is the snake that carries the wisdom of the sign of Pisces, the wisdom of Jupiter. And that wisdom of Jupiter is being transpired by Saturn. So what it shows is that by diving deep into ourselves, by diving deep into the water of that spiritual ocean, which is going to lead you to Rafti, okay? But we are coming back. Shows you're going to encounter this serpent, and you're going to be fearful of the serpent. You're not going to know what the serpent's going to do. Is it going to bite me? Is it going to bless me? Is it going to eat me? And that's where the tamas nature comes into play, where the warrior suddenly gets out his sword and is ready to fight that snake of wisdom. And this snake god, Aribuddhyana, he is carrying this snake bite. And what this snake bite does, okay, and this is where you'll understand when I talk about Rahu, it bites you. And what it does, it causes the pain, okay? It swells up that part of your body. And what's going to happen here now, okay? It's not a bad thing. It's going to release the poison of the material world. That's what happens. This is why this nakshatra represents the struggle to get to moksha, struggle to get to that spiritual enlightenment, the final water, where Krishna or Brahma are going to take your hand and take you to the other side, the most beautiful side you can't even imagine. But what it's doing, by hitting you hard, you lose the toxins of the material world. Me wanting to have that car and that house and the fame and be praised by people or liked by people. This is why the gurus, the real sages, the real astrologers are the most rudest people. Why? Because of the fact, the wisdom they give you, okay? The sweet fruit that they give you is not made up of cornstarch, like all the corporations are doing. No, it's actually made up of real ingredients, real sugar. It doesn't sound as sweet, but that's what the real sugar is. This is why they're so hard. So when this person finally wanting to search for themselves, they suddenly find this struggle that, oh my God, what's going on with me? I want to go towards spirituality, but yet this world of materialism is still attracting me. And then that struggle happens throughout life until you realize that wisdom and you finally leave. So now, in this nakshatra, which is also the josha of Pitta, the fire, meaning the person, the warrior has the fire to now dive deep and to encounter whatever is there. Whether it is the wisdom of snake or whether it's a wormhole in there. The warrior has the fire, the Pitta, to do that. Now Rahu comes in, this is nakshatra. Rahu is the nakshatra, or not nakshatra. Rahu is a energy, okay, that is very malevolent. It wants everything in the easiest of manner. It wants to have this kingly life. This is why Rahu has the ability to make somebody a king, because being a king is an illusion. You sit on a throne, people praise you, and you think you're God. That's what Rahu makes you feel like. Rahu is the planet that shows you that everything around you is real. Meaning that me holding my cell phone is something so real, so beautiful that nothing can surpass it. And it keeps you stuck in that. This is why the material plane comes under Rahu. Rahu is like the energy of Mars, Saturn, Venus, Mercury, because it wants to make you feel pleasure. It wants to make you communicate like towards the masses, going towards the masses. It makes you fearful and struggle like the Saturn. It wants to understand the wisdom, but wants to understand it in the most quickest way, because it has that energy of Jupiter. So now Rahu is in this nakshatra. So now it's going backwards in the mission. It's going against the social norms of society. So it's going to go backwards. So now what Rahu finds itself, because remember, when Rahu is in the sign of Pisces, it's a very confusing state for his soul. Because Rahu is trying to find solid ground. He's like, I'm tired of swimming. I can't just keep swimming from one ocean to the other. What is going on? Where am I? What is this water world? So a person's mission in this life feels confused, feels like a haze. And that haze only gets cleared through spiritual enlightenment. But what the thing is, Rahu doesn't realize it's no longer a nakshatra ruled by his friend Mercury. Now it is ruled by Saturn, who wants to teach the most hardest and the most practical, realistic wisdom in this life. It wants to show you your limitations. So what Saturn does in this nakshatra with Rahu is that Rahu feels like it needs to now expand. He wants to search for that serpent of wisdom. He looks for it and he wants to devour it. It wants to know everything that this snake knows. But then Saturn says, no, you're limited now. You're in this three-dimensional plane of Earth, you're limited now. You're going to have to do something with your limitations. Or Rahu gets frustrated. He's like, what the hell? I cannot use my power anymore. So what this symbolizes, that a person with this nakshatra, at one point in their life, will be able to create things from limited amount of resources. You know, like you watch Gilligan's Island. You saw the professor. He was able to make something out of nothing. He would take the limit of sources on this island where there's no electricity, no machinery, no metal, no chemicals, or minimum of chemicals, and he would create something out of that. So what this does, in due time, this person is able to see their limits that, okay, I don't have all the tools to find my wisdom in this life. So from the limited amount of wisdom that I have, I'm going to try to create something out of it. But because this is Rahu, constantly this person feels that frustration. Like if Saturn was here, would be a completely different thing. Rahu will make the person get too frustrated in life about accomplishing their goals with having such limited amount of power. But here's the thing of the lesson of Saturn in this nakshatra. He says, once you create something of value with what you have, and you open the shackles, you will know the wisdom of this universe. The serpent will come and bless you. Either you can have the poison of the serpent. So when the serpent bites Rahu in the leg, Rahu feels like his energy is draining. His powers are draining. Rahu is somehow losing his power where he could control things. But Rahu doesn't realize the serpent is simply taking all the bad things out from Rahu. So in due time, you will find these people, especially if you find these people around the age of 42 and onwards. At 42, Rahu matures. This person feels like, you know what? I may not have had the most money in life. I may not have the most greatest of resources and friends in life. But you know what? With whatever I had, I created something pretty good. That's where the wisdom comes into play, that wow, if I can do something, whatever I've created with this much amount of access to resources because of Saturn, imagine now what I can do now that I know what my potential is. That's where Rahu, especially in this nakshatra, after the age of 42, settles into this nakshatra of Uttara Bhadrapada and realizes that I can create a whole universe with just this much amount of power that Saturn wanted to teach me. So whatever frustration this person goes through, this can also give you that psychedelic, energy and that notion that something is always trying to come after you and bite you. You know, the people who are always paranoid? Like, someone is after me. I know some enemies there in my work. This is this Rahu energy because it feels like the serpent is in the dark water around it and it's coming after it. Because Rahu really does not know. He just stepped into this plane of earth. Now he's finding out. So you'll find these people take quite a bit of long time of frustration to find their goal in this life. But if you realize with this nakshatra quickly at the age of 20 that the pain that I'm feeling, the pain that I feel of that poison is not actually poison. It is the dirt that is being brought out of me. It's cleaning all the toxins within me. it's showing me what the wisdom of this real plane is about. And so you will find also people who after much struggle find that spiritual enlightenment, like at the age of 50, 60, they finally leave everything material behind and go towards a more spiritual place. But it'll be the struggle of the royer. That tamasic nature is there, that I'm being drawn to this material world because I've just entered backwards into this nakshatra. But I need to actually look the other way. The moment you look the other way, you have left Rahu behind from within you. Okay. So guys, this was my analysis of Rahu in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below. Again, if you want to know where your Rahu is placed, all your other planetary placements in the nakshatra, my books, consultations, for that, check out the links here. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.